For those of you gathered already, hello and welcome to our alumni and staff panel for Hispanic slash Latinx Heritage Month. I will be your host, Allie Villareal. And yeah, we're joined by like a super cool group, and I'm kind of excited it's a small little group. We can like definitely chat and ask questions and do stuff like that. But to tell you a little bit about myself first, yeah, as I said, Allie Villareal, I am one of the coaches on the placements team here at App Academy, and also just like host extraordinaire. I just love getting to like use my former acting talents to play host. But yeah, as a coach, I get to work with students who have come through the program already to help them find their place in the tech space. So doing everything from material reviews, like building resumes and cover letters, to interview prep, to just cheering you on and being like a listening ear. But yeah, prior to coming to App Academy, I was a teacher. I taught for several years, and I get to still use my teaching skills, which I love. I taught math primarily, but also a little bit of theater on the side because I can't let my theatrical talents go to waste. And yeah, that's a little bit about me. I feel very grateful to be here and talk to everyone. I am going to introduce the panelists. Panelists, if you could share your cohort, if you were an alum, your current city and what your current role is, as well as what your life looked like before coming to App Academy. So I'm going to kick it off. I'm just going to go in order, kind of like where I am. So Gigi, you are right next to me. Will
Yeah,
you share a little bit about yourself?
for sure. I'm Gigi. My full name is Gisela Santana. I live in Austin, Texas. I'm not an alum, um, but I am a partnerships manager here at App Academy. So I work alongside the amazing team of coaches with Allie, but I work with the employer side of things. So I kind of do that discovery call, let them know how great and amazing all of you are. So they partner with us, and we share those roles with you after we have those conversations, so that you can go into your first technical role after you have graduated. So that's a little bit of what I do. Before App Academy, I was actually sort of in the front end of things. I did enrollment services, so admissions, financial aid, fill out the application, that whole process. That's what I was doing before App Academy, and I actually did it for 12 years. So a little bit of a career change. So I get where you all are feeling, and I saw that we're going to talk a little bit about what that experience is like. So I'm excited to be here with all of you, and grateful to be here. Back to you,
Awesome.
Allie.
Thank you. That's actually news to me. I didn't know that you were in admissions for 12 years. That's super cool. Which is like such a nice kind of pivot, because I'm gonna go to Chris next. Chris, you wanna introduce yourself and talk a little bit about your role?
Yeah, my name is Chris Lopez, and I'm a hacker and rec here at App Academy. And I'm a 2020 alum. I'm based in New York, and my life before App Academy, I was a office manager at a nonprofit in the Lower East Side. It was a performance venue, so I took care of like making contracts, working with artists, and making sure their show went smoothly. Yeah.
Nice. Um, cool. For those that are here, can you explain a little bit about what hackers and residents do?
Oh
And
yeah,
yeah,
of course. It's one of the best roles I've had in my career so far. Just because I get the opportunity to speak and hear people's stories and what made them decide to try App Academy. And it's always great because I remember how nervous I was being in their shoes, and just being able to be like, or at least help facilitate someone changing their career and path is always, it always feels nice.
thank you. And you are excellent at it, but we'll talk a little bit more about that soon. And then Marco, if you'll take it too, introduce yourself.
Nice. Yeah, I'm Marco Serrano. I'm a software engineer at an insurance company called Assurance, and I work in the marketing tech team. And so I graduated from App Academy back in March 2020, or I was in the March 2020 cohort, and I graduated in September of that year. I'm based in Portland, and before App Academy, I was going to school for pre-med. And so I was just kind of contemplating whether I wanted to do that or not. It wasn't going too well, and I was just thinking that it wasn't the career path that made me happy. And so I eventually tried computer science, which was something that I enjoyed doing in high school. And I took the first couple courses and I absolutely loved it. And so I'm here now, and yeah, that's pretty much all I got.
Wow. Whoo, yeah, Marco did get to kind of do some similar work too in the admissions, and we're so glad that he is living his software development dreams, but we definitely miss him too. I'm so glad that you were able to come and talk with everyone today. So that's a little bit about us. Just want to share a little bit about what we have going on today. Obviously, we wanted to gather a group together. It's kind of this, we were just talking about it before everybody came in, but this poetic justice that we're winding down Latinx Heritage Month. And we happen to be hosting this panel on Indigenous Peoples Day. Like, what a wonderful day to kind of like take back our time and our history and, instead celebrate this identity and talk about where we are in tech and this world, and like how we as Latinx identified individuals get to make our mark, sing our songs, do our stuff in tech. So, and also, of course, hopefully make way for others in tech as well. So that's something that I like to think we really prioritize here at App Academy. And yeah, so that's a little bit about what's today is going to entail. I know it is very preferred often that we get to stay as little black boxes on the screen, but if you would like to, we welcome all of you to turn on your camera just so that way we can see some shining faces. If you are unable to for any reason, though, we totally understand. But if you'd like to turn on your cameras, great. If not, totally cool. We'll keep ours on. Feel free to use the chat feature to ask questions or talk about anything. So chat is there for you to interact with us as we kind of go through this panel today. We are going to have the last 10 minutes set aside for just y'all's questions. If you do have any questions, you are free to either put those questions in the chat, or if you would like, you can do a raise hand feature. If you're not sure how that happens, at the bottom, there is a reactions tab, and you can raise your hand if you have something you'd like to ask anybody directly. For our panelists, again, feel free to also raise a hand, even if a question is not directed at you. Maybe you have something to say about it, and we'd love to hear it. So that's kind of what this is going to be like. Again, I'm here to facilitate. I'll answer questions as I can. But hopefully this is just an opportunity for you to get to know a little bit more about us here at App Academy, or App Academy, the program itself. So don't be shy. Feel free to interact with us. But to kick us off into kind of our panel and all of that stuff, I know you guys gave us a little preview about what you are doing before App Academy. But the idea being that people have this idea that, like, if you're going to be a coder, you're probably like a prodigy. You probably started out very young, early, all of this stuff. Can you tell us a little bit about what your relationship was like to, coding? Was that the case for you guys? Or when did you kind of like, what was your relationship to tech before you decided to go to an App Academy? And so that'll be mostly directed at you, Chris and Marco. So whichever one of you'd like to kick it off first.
Yeah, sure. I can take that first. But as far as like coding experience before App Academy, I had only taken like an intro to computer science class in high school. And in there we learned C++, but like the very, very basics. We didn't dive too deep into that. And after that class, I didn't really touch code again. I kind of had to remember all of that once I started taking college courses for that, when I switched my major. And so I wouldn't necessarily say you need to have any experience before joining App Academy, or just like wanting to make that jump into tech, because I surely didn't. I feel like my skills before App Academy were very, very like base level, and I was just sort of able to kind of get through the boot camp and then just like see how far we could kind of get each week and see what more that we could learn. And even now still continuing to learn.
Nice. Chris, how are your feelings on it?
I'd say that, as I like to say that when I was younger, I always had a fascination with tech, and I would like break apart like devices and figure out how to put them back together. But honestly, I wasn't good at it at all. I'd say maybe 30-40% of devices made it back out of the operation room. But I think that the instead of having like experience in coding, I think what App Academy does is, like, if you have a passion for it, it'll help facilitate you learning from scratch. When I came in there, I didn't have any experience with coding, and I just remember going through the practice thing is for the interview and doing the hello world thing for the first time, and it just like it ignited something. And if I feel that if you have that, you can really make anything happen.
Dang, that's beautiful. But also true. It's like totally. It's something that I tell people, like, if nothing else, it's curiosity, Chris. I mean, I think that's really what it embodies, whether you succeeded or failed at putting things back together after you took them apart. The fact of the matter is there was that curiosity and that desire to know and learn more. And that's something that I think speaks well to any software developers. It's just that hunger for wanting and knowing more. I actually have a question for you, Gigi, because especially going from the admission side, what's your relationship like with tech? Like, how did you, it's kind of a twofold question. So first, what made you make the switch to join App Academy and kind of like go to what is the other end of the spectrum from admissions to placements? And then two, like, I guess, do you have any relationship? I'm sure you have to talk about software a bit, kind of talking to our partnership. So like, what has your relationship with tech been like since transitioning?
Yeah, that's such a good question. It actually sort of related to what Chris was talking about. I like breaking things up and I like building them back up. So that's what attracted me to the tech industry. So I made that transition sort of like with the thought in mind of eventually going all the way into software development and software engineering. It's kind of a long-term goal though. I'm trying to figure out this role first before I transition into anything like that. But obviously, I also have a lot of friends in the tech industry as well. So I have friends that work at Accenture. My boyfriend's a technical recruiter, so he works with the mobile engineers. So I obviously get to interact with a lot of his coworkers. And then also I knew Matt Mortensen. I don't know, you guys probably know him. He's been here a little bit longer than me. He's a partnerships manager. And that's how I found out about App Academy. And it just felt just like the culture of App Academy, just like really wanting to expand that access to people that want to make that transition, and just like that vision of, hey, we're going to help career changers. We're going to make this process as seamless as possible. We want to make this doable for people. I was just like, yeah, that's where I want to be. And then eventually, I'll look into that tech role further on in the career.
That's so cool. Also, I love that long-term thinking too. It's like, I had no idea. Like, before joining App Academy, I knew I also had a friend who went through App Academy, and I heard about it. I knew what it was vaguely, but like, I could not tell you, I could not name a single technology. Like, I guess HTML I could have said because of like my MySpace days, but like, it's amazing how expansive the field is. It's amazing how much there is to learn and know in tech. And yeah, I'm kind of with you, Gigi. Like, I will say, like, I had no desire. I was not a technically minded person. And again, I am a non-technical coach here at App Academy. So I help more with the how to do a job search, how to do well in interviews. But I can say, like, once you catch that like tech bug, it's fascinating. I totally get it. I'd see where it's that intrigue. And yeah, maybe one of these days too, me and Gigi, we can study together. We'll learn how to code. I've heard there's a great place to learn called App Academy. I don't know if you're interested, but
I hear they do good things
They
over
do.
there.
I hear they're pretty good, honestly. Okay, well, actually, I do want to do this quickly. So everyone out there that is listening and at home or whatever, you don't need to turn on your cameras. You don't need to say anything. But what brings you here? If you just want to type in the chat real quick, like how you either heard about this event or why you're interested or what you're doing. Yeah, would love to kind of turn it to you if you want to type it in the chat or share aloud what brings you. Also, yes, we love getting any sort of like baby interactions, pet interactions. If anybody's secretly like hanging out. Oh, sleepy baby. Oh my goodness. Oh, honestly, what's cuter than a sleepy baby? It's hard to beat. Nice. Boyfriend went to App Academy. Hopefully liked it. It's like, hey, I'm gonna send you this link. I hated it, but I just want you to go and like learn more about it. Awesome. Yeah, I guess while and or if people want to interact in the chat, let us know how you ended up here. Kristen and Marco, I want to hear how you first, do you remember? Has it been too long? How did you decide to come to App Academy? How did you hear about us? How did you make your way here?
Yeah, that's a good question. It seems like so long ago, but I just remembered when I took a couple courses in college. I went all in. I got very intrigued by tech. I wanted to be a software engineer. And so I started looking into alternative options for education because I didn't want to spend another 4 years in college. And so I came across boot camps, started looking around, found some local ones, which I originally wanted to do in person. And so I found some here in Oregon, but as I was going through the admissions process for a lot of them, it was mainly, are you able to pay? Are you not able to pay? And then if you can, you're pretty much in. And then when I found App Academy, I decided to, because of like the great reviews that I kept hearing about it, I decided to apply. And then during the admissions process, it felt more like, I don't know, they were like screening for people who were actually like passionate about this or had a good amount of interest and that this was something that they wanted to pursue. And so for me, that sold me on the idea that I'm going to be in a cohort of other people who are essentially trying to work towards the same goal that I am. And so for me, that was such a great environment to be a part of. And so that was mainly the reason that I was sold on App Academy. And yeah, I definitely, I think I made the right choice.
I was gonna say a bit of a success story that we get to have here too, and we'll definitely dive more into that. But we're so glad that you ended up here and are now where you are. So Chris, tell us about your story, your journey to App Academy and beyond.
I'd say, being since I was a kid, like I would watch hacker movies and be like, oh, that's something really cool, something I'd always want to do with the furious keyboard strikes. But like, I didn't really see many people in my family or many people that I knew kind of going down this path until a friend of mine, his name was Alex, he went through the program and he was telling me about it. And obviously I was a bit skeptical because you kind of have the stigma that you have to go through 4 years, you have to do all of this, like, this it's a long path. And when he told me about it and I saw like the things that he was doing, I got really interested. And then I immediately applied. And then like, oh, I knew it was time once I started doing the prep work. And I realized that I was spending hours on end without needing to stop or wanting to stop. And then that continued on all the way up until today. I'll still spend a lot of times building personal projects that may never become anything, but just the process of doing it is really nice.
I love it. Yeah, kind of just learning to learn. I mean, that's where you can really feel your passion. I think where you start to dip your toe in and learn more about it, and you're like, okay, this is more than just fascinating. This is really interesting. Ooh, would love to have you, Itzel. And yeah, kind of just like based on what we're seeing, like I guess, and this is to all three of you, but like, are there any misconceptions about the tech space that you would like to debunk? And I think all three of you could probably speak to this, you know, of course, Gigi talking to our partnerships and, you know, yeah, I guess, is there anything that either like a myth you'd like to debunk or like something that, you know, you've already proven isn't true by nature of your success?
Yeah, I can chime in on that. But I guess like a big misconception I used to have was that people in tech or software engineers were the like very quiet type, very not very social. And then as I kept like meeting other software engineers or other people going through the App Academy program, I started to realize like, oh wow, like I mean, everyone's just like a regular person. Everybody like has their own lives. They're all so unique. There's no like one category as a software engineer. And I think that there's definitely there's not enough Latinx representation in tech, but I think that I think App Academy is doing a good job of kind of pushing the boundaries in terms of getting people from different backgrounds, different walks of life to essentially get into the tech space. And so that's something that I enjoyed a lot, and I enjoy seeing every day.
Awesome. That was a great answer. Gigi?
Yeah. Just from my experience from working with employers, I think a lot of times job seekers and graduates tend to self-eliminate. What I mean by that is like, well, I don't have a bachelor's degree, so I'm not going to do this, or I don't know this programming language, so I'm not going to apply. And a lot of times, most of employers, at least most of our partners, they already believe in App Academy. They already know the curriculum. They already know you have the foundation. So they're excited. They're ready to meet you. They're ready to, to offer you a role, and take you through the interview process. So I think that's one that's, self-eliminating. Like a bachelor's is not necessary every single time, like Chris was talking about. You don't have to have 10 plus years of experience. Google and Meta and Bloomberg and all the big companies out there, they want to work with you. So, kind of encouraging some of you that are starting that process of deciding whether to enroll or not, do it. If that's your passion, yeah, go for it. Don't self-eliminate.
I love it. Chris?
I had a difficulty because I have like two that I was thinking about, but I'd say
share both. Like let's debunk all the myths and misconceptions.
Well, I'd kind of piggy off Marco and say that believing that things are kind of like isolated and you're not going to work with anybody for most of your job, but things that they'll teach in App Academy is just like this pair boarding process, and it's something that is instrumental in most of that. And then I'd say, I guess, well, I could harp on it all day, but it's really about just like exploring your curiosity and I guess the stigma is just like going through it. It's difficult, but I think a lot of that comes from people not really understanding what a program like App Academy or just learning to code kind of like entails, and that's why people in your cohort become some of your biggest connections and your biggest supporters, because everyone is going through that same struggle and learning it together, and kind of like retaining the information is like a real big part of just like that form of learning.
Wow, nice. Chris, I do have a question for you, kind of to follow up on that. Did you do in person or did you do online?
It was supposed to be in person, but it was COVID time, so
the pandemic. Okay. Well, that brings me to my next question for both of you. So at this point, both of you did the program essentially remotely. How did you, I mean, I know you mentioned like your cohort mates really being like important and instrumental. How do you feel like, you were able to develop that sense of community? Like, where did that sense of community come from? What was your relationship like to either the other people in your cohort or even to your instructors? Yeah, just to talk about the community building that happened. Even and like it's hard to believe of like, how do you build a community when we're all little boxes on a screen? Yeah, if you
Yeah.
can talk to that.
Yeah, I could start off. I'd say that going into it, it was very nerve-wracking, as all things are, when you first start. And one of the big worries I had is working with people and kind of just figuring out how to code and like do this Zoom world. But it really boiled down to the people that are a part of the cohorts. It's that everyone has the same mentality and everyone kind of has this desire to reach their dreams. And I feel like when you're all in the room, like looking clueless at the instructor for 15 minutes, it's like, that's when you really feel connected to everybody. And then when somebody asks a question that seems so small, and then you'll see all the light bulbs go off in the room. It's really inspiring. And then even after classes, I think the beauty of being online was that we could take an hour off, go have something to eat, and then everyone was back on Discord, back on Slack, going through the stuff that we went through that day, doing homework and preparing for the next day. So it's just like whenever you felt like you were falling behind, or if you felt like you didn't really understand something, you knew that there was someone in the room that you've already worked with and broken that barrier of communication, and you can like figure out what's going wrong.
Yeah, I don't know how much more I can add to that. I think Chris answered that perfectly. But before joining App Academy, I think the biggest thing that I was worried about was I want to do something in person because I want to create these connections. And online, I don't feel like I could get that same experience. But as soon as I joined App Academy, I feel like I kind of proved that wrong. I built some very deep connections. A lot of people I still talk to this day. My boss is actually one of my cohort mates, who came to App Academy to like build up their skill set. And so I personally feel like because we're all kind of struggling along together, it's very hard not to make those connections. And so yeah, I still treasure a lot of those connections to this day. But yeah.
Marco, can I ask you a follow-up to that? Is that all right?
Yeah.
So this is something I found, and I want to see if you found it too as an alum. Like during the job search process, if I see like that little App Academy badge on like one of those jobs, I look at who it is, and most of the times when I reach out to them and I say, hey, from App Academy too, like instantly there's like, all right, so there's like a mutual respect because they know what it took to get to that point. Did you find that when you were looking, or even if you run into someone on LinkedIn with the App Academy badge?
Yeah, 100%. I knew if I ever saw that App Academy badge, I knew that whatever questions I have, whatever sort of feedback I want to ask for, I know they're always open to it. I feel like that's one of the really great things that I appreciated about App Academy, is just how they built this community where everyone wants to genuinely like support each other. And so once, like for example, you're in your job search, you reach out to people who have software engineering jobs, and then when you get that software engineering back, you kind of want to do the same for others and you want to give back as well. So just kind of that cycle, I really appreciate.
Yeah, Gisela.
Oh, I just wanted to add a shameless plug here for our alumni community. So we have Heidi Nichols and our alumni career coach, Jen Youngblood, and they're working on continuing that community that you're talking about after graduation. So even if you've been out of App Academy for 3+ years, we want to stay connected to you. And I know right now they're doing an alumni series. I think the next one is in Chicago. Don't quote me on that one because I might be wrong. But and also join our App Academy alumni LinkedIn channel as well, because there'll be so much information on there for events and so forth.
For sure, that is like something that's kind of recent, but like, yeah, once you're App Academy, it's like you're App Academy for life. Like you have that community engagement. We always said it too on the coaches side, where it was like, hey, if you need help with your next role, like maybe you already got your first software job, we now have kind of alumni services for like, what does finding your second job look like, third job, etc. So, you know, keep that in mind that we're kind of sticking with you. Cool. What else was I going to ask about that? Oh, knowing that we kind of have a couple of people that are thinking about going into the program, I know you got to kind of reach back into your memory banks, Chris and Marco, but well, actually, no, because you know what? You were both part of the admissions process as well. If there's a piece of advice that you can give them, everybody here that's thinking about applying to App Academy or signing up for App Academy, what would you recommend they do? I guess just to like, before kind of like diving headfirst into this process.
Yeah, I think back when I was in selections, I would also say the same thing, which is definitely try to explore coding. There's these many like great free resources out there, like free code camp, Code Academy. You have App Academy open as well, which is it's really great because everything's like not exactly how it would be in the program, but it's very similar so that you can kind of get a taste of what you're going to experience. And so I would definitely use those free resources, explore, see if it's something that intrigues you. And then when you do get into the boot camp, at least you've kind of sort of built some sort of foundation there that maybe you'll be ahead of the pack for a couple of days.
I'll say that real quickly. The first advice is lean on your cohort mates, work with them, ask 40 questions over and over. They'll most likely they'll help you make sure that you understand, and there'll be a time where it's reversed and you'll have to do the same thing for them. That is your greatest resource. And then the second one is time management. Before going into the program, definitely try to mirror your schedule into what the program will be. I know myself, I need at least 2 hours to get my brain running, and because it doesn't very well. So the worst thing you want to do is go into an exam or go into class like cold, because the startup time is it takes a while. And then reflexively on the other side, you know, you'll be doing like projects, you'll be having fun with your friends, coding all day, and then you realize it's midnight and you haven't eaten since like 10 a.m. So it's always important to be strict with yourself, to eat for an hour, go out, look at trees and stuff like that, then go back into the digital world and continue.
Well, cool. Thanks for those. Okay, to transition a little bit, are there any sort of, how do I put this? Has there been any experiences where you feel like your identity has either been a helpful resource in your process, either like through the boot camp or post boot camp, or you feel like the opposite, where it's been like a struggle, something you had to speak to, anything like that? I know that's a bit of a like more serious question. But I guess like, yeah, to put it more generally, how do you feel like your identity as Latinx individuals has intersected with your work in the tech space?
Yeah, that's always something that I've thought a lot about, is getting more Latinx folks into tech. And so when I was taking courses, even now, there's not enough representation, and representation is super important to me because I would have felt like if I had a mentor growing up who was kind of in the tech space, able to lead me and had a very similar background, it's a lot easier to kind of like be guided into the space versus kind of doing it all yourself. And so it's been a challenge, but I think again, App Academy does a really great job of kind of advertising that anybody can get into tech. It doesn't matter what background you're from. And so that's something that I will continue to kind of work towards. That's something that I kind of have for myself, that I want to get more people into tech. I want to reach out to my communities. I want to reach out to more Latinx folks, and kind of tell them about, hey, if you're even remotely interested in coding, anybody can do it. I can maybe even like show you a little bit, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I'd say where I see it the most is like through the interview process. Like there's a dedicated question, or are you Latino or Hispanic? And I'm just, at first I was like taken aback because it just like seemed like out of place. I mean, but then it just became something that was just like I saw everywhere. So it was like kind of became normalized. Like Marco said, I also had this like urge to like want to tell everyone I know, look, you can code. And honestly, I have my cousins, my brother, like my younger brothers and stuff, all trying to code stuff, and like they're really excited about it. And I think, like we've said many times, all it takes is like that little spark, because code itself will do all the rest. Once you show them how to make a simple method and print out their name or something, it's like they'll take it from there, and it's always great to see. And I think that as we kind of move to a more progressive kind of like field, it like doing that will really help get people from all backgrounds a part of it.
For sure. And Gigi, do you have anything to add? I mean, I know it's not the same experience specifically with coding, but like, I mean, interfacing with so many different companies, interfacing with like different people in the job search process. What has that been looking like for you?
I think in the recent years, there's sort of this movement to, towards social justice and inclusion and diversity. And I think a lot of companies are adopting that mindset. So we actually hear a lot like, hey, what does your population look like, your student population look like? Because they want to bring in people from diverse backgrounds, and they want to bring in people from non-traditional backgrounds, in the sense of maybe not someone with a bachelor's degree. So I've seen it actually recently kind of become sort of a norm of, we want people from diverse backgrounds. And then also there's a lot of resource groups out there. So there's, Latinas in tech, there's Tequeria, there's Trubaja. Trubaja is one of our partners, by the way. Keep putting all those plugs in there. But it's almost inspiring as well. Like it for me, for someone that I actually go by Gigi because it was so hard to get people to pronounce my name. It's sort of like recently I learned it's kind of part of the code switch, or trying to fit in, which I was like, oh, I didn't really realize I was doing that. But I lost my train of thought with that. Where was I going? But yes, this movement of like people really wanting to, help, people from diverse backgrounds, and really help them get into the tech world, and being like, hey, this is possible for you too.
Yeah, I think, I mean, just kind of like to piggyback off of that. Yeah, I always felt it was so strange because I go by Allie, but my name is Allison, and I always felt like a little out of place. I live in South Texas. I was born and raised here in San Antonio, Texas, which it's a predominantly Hispanic Latinx community, and that need to code switch where it was like, oh, but I still need to introduce myself as like, my name's Allie Villareal or Villareal, even like even less. And then kind of being able to take that back of like, you can pronounce my name. It's not that hard, that bad. Especially when, yeah, Gisela. I mean, that, yeah. Anyway, sorry to take off of that. I did put some links to both Techeria and latinasintech.org. The resources are there, and kind of like something that I wanted to shout out that all of you talked about, and something that I do think is really important. And one of the things that I feel very proud of with App Academy is that like it's about accessibility. I say that word a lot, but I think the name of the game is accessibility. Where like we have an ISA, like we have this income share agreement. We're like, okay, pay once you get a job, because it's about making access. I can't think of that many people that could go get another college. I can't go get another college degree. I'm still paying off my loans for my undergraduate degree. And the idea being that like, we don't want your finances to be an issue for you pursuing, navigating a new space. And I mean, Chris, I feel like, Chris, you are a poet like a poet programmer. Maybe that should be like your new tagline. Programmer poet, because yeah, AA makes diversity opportunity a mission and not a chore. So beautiful, gosh. But seriously, I think, you know, it's something we really value here, we really prioritize, and I'm just really like proud to be amongst this group of people right now, because just knowing that it's not just about changing your life, but then potentially changing the lives of those that come after you. So I mean, you know, Marco talking about reaching out to the communities and like trying to spread that valuable like insight and education, and then Chris, the fact that you're even like teaching like your sibling, like, you know what I mean, like siblings, cousins. I feel the same. I mean, it's really just like it's a field that felt so closed off. I think there's a lot of expectations, particularly being like Latinx, where, you know, oh, okay, we have all of these stereotypes in mind about what jobs are out there for us or what we're capable of doing. And yeah, I don't know. I just want to like kind of, I know we're not quite at the end, but I wanted to like thank you guys for this like insight that you've been sharing. I will say that like, though we are in the last 15 minutes, if anybody has any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. Anything that's still like burning on your mind, anything that you would like to either respond to or get answered, we would love to help try and answer that. But to kind of transition to what's next. So yes. Oh, please, if you have questions, if you would like to unmute, go for it. If you would like to put questions in the chat, type them in the chat. However you are comfortable asking these questions, we would love to have questions from y'all.
All right, so buenas noches.
Buenas noches.
Buenas tardes, dependiendo en qué parte del país te encuentra. My name is Alex Pacheco. I didn't want to take up too much of the time. I tend to talk a lot, but basically I heard about App Academy through a friend. I was doing kind of some prep work, and then I started the open curriculum, and I'm in the process of going to the prep for App Academy. I think it's like $500 or something, 4 weeks long. And so I have one question that's specifically for Miss Santana. And that is because I currently reside in Houston, Texas, and I want to work either in Houston or in Austin. And my question for Miss Santana is, what are you seeing in terms of the job market for Austin? What are the in-demand technologies? What companies are hiring junior developers? What are they looking for based on your experience so far?
Great question. Actually, so Austin is sort of becoming the Silicon Valley part 2. I think it's called Silicon Hills, actually. So this is where we have Google, we have Meta, we have sort of those big name companies, but then we have a lot of small startups and even some medium to large companies like Realtor.com, as well as EBQ, who's one of our partners. So they tend to hire from us pretty much every quarter. So I would say yes, definitely feel comfortable if you're even thinking about moving to Austin, or even if you want to stay remote in Houston and work for an Austin company. I would say that's definitely more than doable. And even during this time where I know that we're sort of like in a recession, but not in a recession. I don't know what the deal is there, but we are still seeing traction for our graduates, and we're still seeing people get into technical roles and getting into those web developers and junior software engineers. So I would definitely say that you should feel comfortable, whether you want to stay in Houston or in Austin. I think it's totally doable.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then my next question is for Marco and Chris, or whoever wants to answer. And it was just my curiosity with maybe the amount of people that your cohort started versus the amount that graduated. And so if there was people that dropped, and what that amount of people look like, and maybe reasons why they might have dropped.
Yeah, I would say that every cohort kind of looks very, very different. So it'd be hard to kind of compare what my cohort looked like 2 years ago in App Academy versus what it currently looks like. But what I will say is that in my cohort, it was a smaller one, and I think App Academy keeps some sort of like ratio in terms of like TAs to students, just to make sure that everybody kind of gets the help that they need and that they're paying for. And so I didn't feel like I was particularly neglected in any part. I felt like when I had questions, there was always someone there to answer. TAs were always very, very helpful. I think during my cohort, we'd have Saturday office hours and stuff like that. Everyone's always willing to help. And even if you can't get your answers, like if you can't get an answer directly from your TA, there's always your cohort mates as well, that I asked a lot of questions to.
I can answer this too. So this is like a class. I used to be Marco's manager and now I'm Chris's manager. And this is like a classic training question. And basically we say, don't answer this question because it can give people wildly unrealistic expectations. Because Marco's cohort may have had like 100% graduation rate and Chris's cohort may have had like 75% graduation rate or something. And so if you had Marco versus Chris as an interviewer and they gave you like their individual experience, then you would walk away like thinking like, wow, App Academy has like an amazing graduation rate or they have a terrible graduation rate. And so my answer is, it's supposed to be on our website. We are like very heavily regulated and we can be like severely fined if we give people the wrong information. So, which is a good thing. Like we should be, like all boot camps should be, all educational institutions should be. And so I don't want to give you the wrong information. I know that somebody else on the team like just recently calculated this for 2021, the graduation rates for campus, SWE Online full-time and SWE Online part-time. And so I will make sure that we get a link to everybody, because I just checked, I thought it was on outcomes, but outcomes is just App Academy / outcomes is just like the placements numbers. And even that is like 2019, which is not very useful. So anyways, that's all I'll say. But I'll get you a link. I'll make sure that that information goes out because those are like exactly the kinds of questions that you should be asking, and that like you deserve to know. So
Thank you. And I appreciate the response. My concern was I don't have a lot of exposure to this type of material. I come from call center leadership and sales, and I'm in a career transition now. And so I guess I had some concerns about, seeing things for the first time, maybe getting stuck and being one of those people, but I have cleared out my schedule and I am going to dedicate the next 6-7 months just to learn everything you guys have to offer. And so that's why I was just curious.
Nice. Again, it's the exact kind of question you should be asking. Yeah, I mean, I definitely see everybody from the other side too. But no matter what those numbers are, I will say the things that will serve you well is exactly what you said. It's just going to be that commitment, whether it takes you 6 months or a year, especially if you're going to do more of the like self-taught route. App Academy Open has a lot, but kind of like what Mark was speaking to earlier, there's so many resources out there too. So whether you choose to join App Academy, like the boot camp, take advantage of every resource that you can. I will say that we never want people to leave the program, but it definitely happens. And that being said, I always tell people like I hate the phrase, but the idea being like the squeaky wheel gets oiled. Just make sure you're vocal and asking questions too, like kind of what Chris had said is advice of how to make it through together. Lean on your cohort if you do decide to join, like ask questions constantly, consistently. Don't feel like you're ever being annoying. It's kind of that idea of like if the resources we have are what you pay for, I mean, whether you're paying for it now or later, the idea being that that money is eventually going to come out of your pocket, and you want to take full advantage. So I just want to say, like, that is a great question, and I'm glad you asked it, and we'll get those numbers. But yeah, and that goes for anybody, no matter what you're doing. If there are resources, if there are questions to ask those questions. People, it's kind of surprising how much people actually do want to help. So, you know, even if it's just reaching out to us at a different time too. I know the people here would love to help. I know others said maybe you have other questions. Any other questions that we would like to get answered while we have some time together?
I think Ashley had said she had questions.
No. Ashley also has an adorable baby that she's probably trying to manage as well. Right. Yes, please add me on LinkedIn. Go for it. I don't know how active Marco is on LinkedIn anymore now that he has a full-time job, but yeah, I try to like be pretty on top of LinkedIn. It's, you know, I'm already a social media addict, and so LinkedIn is like my next favorite thing. Perfect. Okay, Ashley, what is the process like to get started? Is there an interview process? In fact, there is. I kind of want to take it to Chris since that's part of your process. But I know Marco, you can speak to it too.
I can take it as fine. Well, at least I can speak on my part of it.
There you go.
Which is both non-technical and technical interviews, which I can explain a little bit of what that is. The non-technical interview is basically an interview where we get to learn about your background, and at the same time kind of tell you about our background and how we got into App Academy, just so you can kind of see what the experience is like. And then we'll talk about the actual program and you know, just some key elements of the curriculum, which are stuff that we spoke about here. One being like teamwork, other stuff being just like the dedication necessary to kind of see it through the end, and just lastly, just the cultural aspect, the idea of diversity, and the idea of just pushing the ideology of creating safe spaces. And then at the end, we'll have like a section where you can ask questions regarding the experience. It's funny because the last question regarding the graduation rates, I could tell Marco is like legit from the from the job, because I was gearing up to say the same thing. And then the other side of the interview is the technical interview, and that's when you're given like some material to kind of learn some introductory stuff inside of coding, mainly like iterations, loops, hashes, things like that. And that's all provided to you by the admission specialist. And then from there, it's kind of a nervous process, but it's a good way to kind of just show off what you learn too. And the way I tell, you know, candidates that come into the meeting is that, like, I know it can be stressful, but at the end of the day, let's try to like have a good time here, because we're going to be exploring some really cool questions and working together at the end. Yeah.
Marco, got stuff to add? Yeah.
Yeah, I'll add a little bit to that. I don't know how outdated my information is, but I would say that the biggest part of the interview is just kind of showing your commitment to App Academy and to coding. And as long as you kind of show that you've taken the time to think about this is a decision that you want for yourself. And then you also prepare with your admission specialist. I think everything should be fine. I don't think it's something that you necessarily need to stress too much for, just little preparation. And like I said, your admissions specialist should be there with you along the way as well to kind of help prepare you for that interview. But the interviewer is an App Academy grad. So it's just, you know, someone who was in your shoes as well. It's not some stranger or some, I guess, like higher up. It's like someone who was in your shoes, and so they can kind of feel what you were feeling.
And in terms of starting the process too, If you want, so this is the Calendly link for talking to an admission specialist. It's kind of broken down by which program you're in. I know Naja's in here, but I'm not going to put her on the spot. So she is one of our admission specialists. But basically they are here to help talk you through what the process looks like, give you any sort of additional information. But again, a lot of it is going to be, of course, just kind of like on appacademy.io. That's our website. Anything you're curious about, I would explore the website. I know, Ashley, you had specifically mentioned like the part-time program. Oh, hey, Naja. Hi. We were talking about admissions. We had a question about how the admissions process can get started. But yeah, I mean, honestly, schedule a time to talk with an admission specialist. They will happily answer your questions, talk you through what that looks like. But honestly, the best way to get started is just to interact with our website. I'd say we have a beautifully coded website thanks to our engineering team, which none of them are here right now, but like just shout out to our engineering team. Yeah, there's a lot of resources there. Of course, like if you ever do want to reach out, please do. But yeah, any other last minute questions? I know we're actually at our hour and I do want to respect everybody's time. Any last minute things, lifts, anything you'd like to say before we kind of sign off, while you might be typing any last minute questions? I wanted to give it back to my panelists real quick. First of all, thank you so much for joining us tonight. A big shout out to Heather, who actually organized this and does a lot of the good work for making this all happen. Yeah, just thank you all for joining. Last words of encouragement from each of you, if you want to share something.
Yes, anyone can learn to code. And I would just say, if you're very like interested in this journey, don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to reach out. I think that was the most important thing for me, is just kind of getting over that, the pridefulness, and just actually reaching out, asking questions, making sure that I wasn't falling behind, making sure that if I had something on my mind that I would ask it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd agree. I'd say that have fun with it. Like as you're learning, there are of course going to be times where the difficulty ramps up, but always remember, that if you got past 1 week, then you're meant to be here, and if even if at the lowest point of your time there, if you feel like you're not supposed to be there, talk to one of your friends and you'll realize everyone is kind of in that space and it won't last forever. There were times where I would like sleep and dream about coding and then wake up knowing how to solve the problem, and it was something that a lot of people in my cohort had, so you can feel ready for that. Can I also ask where you guys are from? I'm Ecuadorian. I'm South American. Maybe that'd be a good way to end.
Yeah, Chicana up in here. I'm all puro Mexicana.
I'm Puerto Rican as well, Alex.
Cool.
I know there's like, I'm like, ooh, all this like, yeah. It's like, this is where the competitiveness comes out. It's like, okay.
It is World Cup time.
That's where we're gonna show up. But yeah. Ooh.
I do want to say, just adding to what Chris and Marcos was saying. I mean, si se puede, go for it, do it.
For real. I was like, Viva la raza. We gotta do this for each other. Anyway, well, that's all we have, honestly, for tonight. But hopefully we'll continue to see you all, continue to interact with us, continue to reach out. I don't think I put my LinkedIn in there either, but if you have questions, please find me. It's Allie Villareal, and then I know Gisela put hers. And yeah, talk to admissions, check out our website. But last but not least, thank you all for joining us. This was super fun. It was nice to feel the camaraderie and kind of close out this month this way. So yeah, have a great evening. Have a great last week of Hispanic Heritage. And yeah, Heather, any last words?
Every single person that you meet in the admissions process wants to see you do well. So remember that it's very nerve-wracking going through the interview process, but your interviewers are excited to meet you. And they're people like Marco and Chris and me. And like, we are excited to meet you. And like, we really want to see you do well. So remember that. And yeah, you can do it. And just thank you all for being here. And Allie, you have to host all of the panels now. Like, you're amazing.
Thank you so much. It was truly a fun time. So I appreciate the opportunity.
So, but yeah, thank you all.
Cool. Thanks for coming. Don't be a stranger. Have a great night.
Bye,
See
everybody.
y'all. Adios. Buenas noches.